Hey folks, welcome back to the Change Physician Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, with my co-host, Dr. Melissa Cady. And for today's episode, we have Dr. Donna Corriel. Did I get that last name correct there?
You absolutely did.
You know, sometimes I get these things right. So, and we're going to talk about Dr. Donna's change physician journey, as well as how she has sort of optimized and entered in the social media realm, which has a lot of potential for physicians out there. So it should be a great episode. Thank you, Dr. Donna, for joining us on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to speak and introduce myself to your audience.
Yes. So just to start off, we like to go way, way back in the beginning and just figure out why did you go into medicine?
You know, I went into medicine to help people. I'm a people person and I love connections. That's really just the nitty gritty of it. I used to kind of like babble and answer when people would ask me, because I think there's been a lot of transformation over the years. But at the end of the day, like, I am a people person and I am a connection person. So that is why I did that. And that is also why I am so happy now, because I'm still able to find connections and make a difference. I'm just not doing it clinically.
Yeah, I think that's an important part, not because we have a couple more questions before I want to get into this exactly, but for physicians in general, I would say over and over again through these interviews, what we're finding is that core ideal that people go into medicine to help people. So, you know, and I want physicians out there to kind of understand that is we are helpers. That's what we want to do. And that can also bring some problems later on as we kind of go into the actual medical system part. But
absolutely,
makes perfect sense to me, and I can definitely see that you're a people person. So you're wanting to help people. You're a people person. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go in this field. I'm going to have all this chance. So what did you think you were going to accomplish? I mean, helping people, sort of a broad terminology, but as going into medicine as compared to some other helping field, what specifically did you think you were going to accomplish in medicine?
I mean, I think the medicine is just the traditional field that's always been so stable. I think people will just always need physicians to heal. And so in thinking that way, I mean, I think that my past actually plays into that decision, and that I immigrated to the United States at the age of 10. So like that, it was just a stable thing for me, for my future, that would guarantee like a future where, again, there was stability. I hate to say the word stability, but it's almost ironic because we're going to talk about just how much it didn't work out because I left. I left clinical.
Yeah. I'm curious, like in that path, if you want to break it down, you can, but in medical school versus the postgraduate training in internal medicine, my understanding were there any realizations or maybe little red flags or little things that you learned along the way that started making you open your eyes to the reality of the system?
There was, okay, great question. You know why? Because you're like a machine. Mm-hmm. Like you are like a machine when you are in medicine path. And that's part of what's broken in medicine, is that like, why are we machines, right? Why do we have to like extract the humanness and the emotions in ourselves and like become these machines that become physicians? And it doesn't allow us to like think broadly and think out of the box. And so I was a machine, but I first realized something was not right when I took a step away from medicine. Mm-hmm. I took a break for medicine about 10 years ago to be home with my third child. And I suddenly opened my eyes and was like, whoa, like there's a world out here that is filled like with cool things in which, not that maybe I could fit, I didn't even think that back then, but I was like, whoa. And so that was the first time. It's almost like I had to extract myself from that like narrow-minded like machine. I mean, I envision in my head like robots walking, like I'm going to be a doctor, right? And then you're taking a step out of the line and you're going, whoa, like something's not right in this like automation. So that's when I first realized it, is when I took a step away from medicine.
So on that same line, being that your husband is medicine, I'm saying this because my husband is totally non-medical, and there's times where he thinks like, I don't know certain things that happened in the past or like history, because I was so locked into all my medical training that he's like, where were you? Like, were you on another planet? Like, how do you not know these things?
Yeah, and we were on another planet.
Yeah. And so I guess my question to you is, do you feel like being in a relationship with another physician too, during all that training, kind of put you in a bubble even more to maybe not see the other things outside that life you're living?
Completely. We are completely sheltered in how we grew up. We grew up together, right? We met in med school, and like, yeah, we literally had to like lock ourselves in our houses and study, because that's literally all you do. And all of our friends and family that grew up with us, they were busy like developing lives and getting married and having children and like buying homes and making money, like, and impacting people and doing stuff in their careers. And we were like on this trajectory, and it's almost like there was like a chunk of time that stood still for us. And we come out on the other side like, whoa, like, what was that all about, right? And then you're just like, now you're suddenly like a doctor, and then you're going, wait, you come out on the other side, you're exhausted, and you're just at the start of your career.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily have all of the solutions, but it makes no sense.
Right. Right.
It's a prescription for burnout.
Yeah. And there's also, oh, go ahead, Kevin.
It kind of makes me laugh because this discussion is like, my wife's a physician too, and it's the same thing. We met in medical school, and you go through this process, and we had our first kid during internship, and it is, you just bury your head down and you're just going, and you have no clue what's happening in the world.
You don't know what you're missing.
No, absolutely.
And I can't believe what I've missed until now. It's horrible to say. I feel like I haven't lived, and that might be just a personal satisfaction issue. Like, I am so happy now, and I am outside of medicine, that it's sad. Like, and again, I don't feel like anything was wasted. I am happy because I am who I am today. I don't think I would have been who I am today without what I do. And I also have a medical degree. I think I use it for good. But it's interesting to think back on all those years.
Yeah. And how fast they went.
Absolutely. My youth was spent studying.
Yeah.
One thing, science and the body, but not much outside, not about like the human connection as much, or the emotion, or like the fact that we don't know everything in medicine, and like, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. There's
so algorithmed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was going to just kind of comment on that is, again, that hyper focus. And I'm kind of curious on, did you have a lot of hobbies before you went into medical school then, or not? And the only reason I say that is I know I had hobbies before I went to medical school, but it's hard to remember what they were.
I think that's so interesting, because I don't remember either. And I think that's a function of this automation machine, is that you go in and it almost like wipes out who you were before, and it reconfigures you to be the robot that you come out as. And you have to literally let go of all that you were before. And so I feel the same as you. I forget. And I had to redefine myself later by taking a step back from that robot self. I had to shed break free from the robot automation and be like, what else can I do in this life that's impactful, that is not automated? And like, it's an interesting concept. And like, I've written about this before, that, you know, to get into medical school, right? They want you to be well-rounded and like do a million things that, if it's outside of science, then it's actually a big plus. But then you go into medicine, and it's like, no one has time to do it, and no one says you should do it. Like, meaning they say you shouldn't do it. You should focus on medicine. And so what was the point of being well-rounded when you're like saying, now I'm not going to do it anymore, and you become that robot?
Yeah. I think it strips it all away. And this, I think the commitment and the type A personalities and all these various things that kind of put us in this direction sometimes, or make us crazy enough to agree to doing this. That's what I feel like it's always been. And the system has like desensitized you along the way to the work, where it almost becomes the only thing that gives you gratification is doing that and being committed to that, at the expense of your own feelings, which you many times have to suppress with what you're dealing with in front of you. And really feeling like you're on an island a lot of times, dealing with the intangibles, the feelings. No, that's okay.
Sorry.
I don't know what you think about that thought, but.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think we are alone. That's another issue, is that you finish and suddenly you're out there all alone and you're literally alone, which is part of what I'm doing when I say that I am, you know, in what I do today, it's connection. That's the beauty of social media, in which I dabble now, is that we are able to now suddenly connect and realize that there are issues that are huge that we need to figure out as a profession, on many levels.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of go back in time a little bit, because you're after the birth, or before your birth, your third son, but the 10-year time period where you're going through the tunnel. You have that you're full on robot mode, but now you pause, and it's interesting how those pauses give you a chance to breathe and look around a little bit. What was it like to go then back into clinical practice after that breather?
It was hard. It was hard because I had taken 3 years off. You know, you forget. You're also a different person now. For me, because suddenly I came back with like all these new loves and passions and abilities and newfound talents, which is a beautiful thing, because I think it literally made me a better physician. I, like you, had a child when I was an intern. It was my first son. I have 3 sons. And it made me a better physician to take a step back. And so I actually have lectured in a conference, the Women Physician, Dr. Erica Howe's conference. I lectured on that, on a break, how we all need our own breaks. It doesn't have to be 3 years like me. It could be 5 minutes or an hour, but we all need breaks. So yeah, that break was both empowering, but also difficult to step away from then. I actually considered not going back, but then it was like, I have to go back. But I said to myself, I'm going to go back, but I'm not going to let go of these talents now that and these passions that I've acquired, right? And that's what I did. Now, it was made a little easier by the fact that I actually needed to recertify at the time. So I literally went into back into robot mode to some degree, right? And put myself in studying mode, and I passed my certification exam. And so that reminded me all of the hardcore medicine that I just had forgotten in the last 3 years. And slowly I just got stronger and stronger as a doctor. So it was hard to go back in, but it was doable. But I went in also, just FYI, so full transparency, I went in part-time.
Okay. But I guess that pause that you had then allowed you to kind of resurface your head. And then when you went back into clinical practice, you were much more aware than you were before. So,
I was a different person.
Okay. And I think that's an important sort of transition there, because there's so many physicians, and you've probably seen them in people you know or friends that you have, is that you almost feel trapped in the process, but you don't know that there's anything else that you can do. And I think I see a lot of people getting trapped by fear as physicians, where they're just like, this is all I can do. This is all I can do. And realistically speaking, what you did was you took a break, and through that break, you became more aware, and you could return to clinical practice, but you can't. When you came back to practice, you had a greater awareness. So I'd love to hear how that awareness sort of led you on the rest of the journey.
Well, I want to point out that there's different kinds of awareness, meaning there's awareness of what you're talented in life, and then there's awareness of what physicians are doing out there. Those are 2 different things, right? So I was aware of myself, and to me, it was a harder process because it's not handed to you on a silver platter. You've got to realize that you need to do some self-discovery and to figure things out. And that's an active process versus the passive process of joining a group that now we can do, that has the ability to network with other physicians who have stepped away and are conquering their fears and doing things that are different, right? And that's more passive because you're listening and it's given to you what you can do. Versus right, I did the first thing, which is discover myself. But then I also said, I'm going to create something from nothing. I'm literally going to create something from nothing because I believe it can be done. At the time I said, I don't necessarily know how I'm going to get to my goal, but I will create something out of nothing. And my goal was to empower physicians to change healthcare. I can tell you that my husband asked me 70 times, what are you doing? I couldn't clearly define it because it wasn't yet there weren't words to it. And even to this day, every day I get stronger and stronger in expressing and explaining why what I'm doing is so important and how it can help us to improve healthcare. So.
Yeah. So that's I'm really curious. Obviously, your conviction in what you're doing and what its purpose and role and where it can go is much stronger now. I'm curious, especially when we tie it back to this idea of kind of losing yourself in medicine, and used to have hobbies, but then you don't really, have the time or kind of forget because the focus is on work. When you have this awareness and you realize I need to kind of rediscover myself, it seems like you kind of, at least for me, when you try to get into that active process, you kind of feel like you step into this nebulous like fog where it's not really, it's not like you find answers out of a book. It's how do you, I mean, for the listeners, what would be your suggestion on how to experience that process or how to go about starting that process? Because it seems
it's daunting.
You can't even find the words or the guide to help you.
Oh yeah, it's daunting. So first of all, I laugh to myself because as you describe it, like I always think of that scene from, I don't know if you've seen it. I think of that scene from Frozen 2 where she steps into the unknown. And like there is a song and it always plays in my head, like into the unknown. Like she literally steps through like this nebulous, like you said, but like through this nebulous cloud into like a whole different world that she doesn't know. I mean, it's scary because we are those robots. Like not only are we the robots, but like there hasn't been any other fit for us in the past than a traditional like patient physician, like physical live interaction behind closed doors. And so that's what I wanted to change is I wanted to find ways to change those interactions from the real life patient physician to something that's virtual, but something that's also not telemedicine. Now, when I started telemedicine was still like less known also, but there are so many ways we can actually impact people's lives using our knowledge, our medical degrees, our expertise that can be done using the online that's not telemedicine based. That's what SoMeDocs is about.
Well, and let's get into that now because I think that's an important kind of point of the conversation. And I'm just going to kind of lead off is because physicians have been, I mean, there's obviously you and there's other people that have sort of been kind of blazing this trail, but historically, based on my limited interactions with social media is not dominated by physician voices when it comes to health.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I started SoMeDocs because and it's funny, I just was on a podcast like right before yours where we literally hit on that, right? That is one of the things I saw during my breaks from medicine, right? I was home and I was dabbling online and all my friends and family were online and all these people were online and they were connecting and communicating, my friends and neighbors. And many of them were educated and with degrees. And for some reason, the doctors weren't. And I was like, why? That is a way to connect. And then additionally, it was being done about health. And it was being done not by doctors. Like, and again, that's fine unless you start to see that it's wrong information that's being spewed by people that don't know. And then even worse was when you then realize that the people the people that are actually absorbing the false information are then going to their doctor and they're wasting that 15, 20-minute appointment. They're wasting 15 out of the 20 minutes having to be convinced that that's not true. So like it was becoming a real life issue because we've waited for so long and there was such a big hole in the online world for where physicians should fit.
Yeah. There's so much to say about just how as physicians we haven't come together. I mean, even when we look back when we started accepting insurance, I mean, there's so many things that
we have no PR. We have no PR. And that is why, that is something that SoMeDocs, that's why I created SoMeDocs was I said, holy crap. I don't know if I could say the S word. I'm a partner. Holy crap. Like I have so much that I have done with my voice. Like, wow. Then I was like, can you imagine what all of our voices together, first of all, individually, all of our voices, but then collectively, like what amazing things can these intelligent humans do in this world if they were the influencers. I was like, SoMeDocs, like I was like, let's do this, guys. Let's collaborate. Let's network. Let's throw ideas out there. Let's start making networks. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think it's even more critical now because the consumer, the patients are recognizing they're not getting what they really need, which is connection and time with their physicians.
Yes.
And they're getting so fed up with it, they're going
Absolutely.
elsewhere because they're not being served well. And so, like you said, if you can recreate the communication and trust, then this would end up benefiting everybody.
Well, also if we, again, there's a million things we can talk about where PR is concerned, but if we can really show the world, the patients are what counts, they're the voters, right? If we can prove to them that it isn't us, it's not the face of the broken interaction, it's the factors behind the face that are at fault. The system has played us really nicely. We're pawns. We are pawns in a system where we are the face of the transaction and we are the cogs in the wheel that make it work. And yet it's like smoke and mirrors. We make it look like we're in charge of the brakes, and yet we're not. We're not the ones saying should be a 15-minute appointment. And yet who does the patient blame when it's a 15-minute appointment and they're annoyed? The doctor. How dare they? Because traditionally in old days, it was us that was deciding. But they're not caught up because it's all been very hush-hush and quiet as to why things are happening, why changes are happening behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So we need PR.
Yeah. So let's rewind just a little bit, and then can you talk specifically about SoMeDocs? Because we've been throwing that around a little bit, but I want to make sure that people know what that means. So if you can kind of talk about the process, why you started SoMeDocs, what SoMeDocs is, and what's the mission behind it, so that everybody listening can kind of join in a little bit more.
Sure. The word SoMeDocs stands for Doctors on Social Media. SoMe is social media. SOME Docs. I saw that I was having so much impact from my words and my blog and my photos. And I'm also, again, an idea person. I think outside the box. I could re-angle things and actually make an impact. And then I considered all these interactions online that I could impact as well. And then I was thinking of the ways that we can be cool, where the audience would be drawn to us now and they're not going to be scared to come. And then I thought about all of these people that are out there that I could actually impact more than just a one-on-one patient interaction. Like those 15 minutes that I spent with one person could be spent like this, talking to all of your audience, or in a conference talking to thousands of people, or online, by the way, where I can talk to millions of people. And there's power there. And we are experts and we have degrees and people should listen to us. And so I wanted to be behind that movement. I wanted to fuel it. And I knew that I could do it. I knew that I needed to be one of the people. I'm not the only. I knew I could be one of the people to convince doctors why this is important. But I also had the tools to do it because I was talented in it. And I have taken these past few years to slowly practice it and to hone in on my skills and to become really good at social media, at every single platform. And then I decided to congregate the group so that I would be in charge of it and lead it in the right way. And so I have slowly nurtured this, what started out as a physician-only Facebook group, to where it is today solely through word of mouth. It's called SoMeDocs, Doctors on Social Media. It is existing now in different forms on Facebook. So if you are listening and you're a physician, make sure you get into the right one, because there is also a SoMeDocs Public now that has a different purpose for later down the road. But we have since expanded to different spaces. So the Facebook group is physician only and it's private, where everyone is vetted. So we can have private conversations where we can impact, and it's moderated in threads where you can share your work and we can network effectively, but in a moderated way so that we can beat Facebook's algorithm and really bring value to the group. And then we've expanded to having a website where people's work can shine, where they can find master classes to take. That's the newest thing I would love to talk about. We're on Twitter, over 15,000 followers there. We hold a weekly Twitter chat to get people connected and talking. We're on Instagram. It's everywhere. And there's different there's different potential to use it and to grow from the different platforms that we're on. So that's it in a nutshell.
If Kevin, if it's all right with you, I'd like to actually hear a little bit about the masterclass and how that came about. If the audience was asking for it, or what led to that.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, like, I've been sort of like the face of SoMeDocs. There's been lots of doctors that have been great. So originally it was me, and I'm driving everything, and I'm building my own personal brand, Dr. Corriel. I'm building SoMeDocs, my other brand, which is my company. And all along, I'm the one that's learning how to do this. So people want to hear me. They want my intellectual property. They want my advice, my consultation, but I'm one person. And so, again, I offered my services in consulting. I went to speak at conferences. I then built a masterclass where I can sort of help physicians in a group setting so that it wouldn't be just one-on-one. But at the end of the day, there's more talent out there than just me. I'm just the person who runs the show. And I'm also happen to be very good at marketing. So I said to myself, like, why can't I curate? Because I'm good at content creation, and part of that is actually curating projects. Just like I curate a blog post well, just like I curate an Instagram post well. Why can't I curate this almost like this mini conference, but this space that is being led by physicians that are superstars in their own right, and maybe have leveraged one specific platform? And then also in conference form, which is coming, a virtual conference in the fall. But the masterclass, I taught myself to, like, again, give myself practice. I saw what works and what doesn't. And now I've basically decided that it works and that it's amazing in group fashion. It's a class where you're taking a period of time and you're getting to know the others in the class. You're growing with them. And then you're sort of like nurturing your brand together. You're understanding what a brand means, and then you're using the social media platforms the right way. And that's how the SoMeDocs masterclasses idea was birthed. And I am now curating these classes. So for example, the first one is getting debuted. It is a social media 101, where there are a group of instructors, the physician instructors, that each have mastered each platform. And each of them takes the students through the journey through that week, virtually, at the student's own time, at their own pace. And that's the beauty of the online. It's better than real life. So these classes where I've curated it to help in whatever topic that class is. So social media 101 is coming out. Podcasting 101 is coming out. There is a business of medicine coming out. There is a how to become a coach coming out. And there are many others that are forming in this amazing venture. And I highly recommend it because it's going to be unique.
Yeah, you've got so much, I know we talked about conviction, but the confidence you have with this and your capabilities and abilities, did you have any struggle at the beginning with that? Did you 100%. Have any doubts?
I wasn't like this when I started. I am living proof of what many things can do, what dabbling outside of medicine can do, what thinking outside the box can do, what reaching your capabilities and what your and thinking broad and saying, I'm not just what everybody defines me as. And I'm still not well-spoken. I don't care. Like I've always been very like chill and down to earth to the point where patients really like it, right? They always said to me, like, you're so not a typical doctor. And I'd be like, well, why? What's typical? But I know what they mean. Like, yeah. I'm not don't get me wrong. I put on the white coat and I am professional. I absolutely can be I've spoken at professional. I mean, when I've had, I've given one-on-one sessions at the Harvard Writers Conference, Dr. Julie Silver's conference, and I've been very professional because it's Harvard, and yet you still want to let your personality shine through, and people feel it. But I am who I am today, and I'm confident because I know what I'm doing, and because I truly, truly, truly believe that it's great quality, because I've taken the time to do it super slowly and to like build the roots down into my venture to make sure that I do it well, that I know what I'm doing, and that I am doing it for good intentions.
Right.
So
Kevin, I have probably other questions too, but I don't want to take over.
I don't want to like hijack the conversation.
When we have two people that are co-hosting, I don't want to like, usurp my time.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going well. I do have just one thing I would like to ask you, because I'm sure that there's some listener, there's a physician who's thinking, I don't like social media. Why should I? And I would love to hear your take on that. Why it's not only why should they, but why it's almost a disservice not to do some sort of social media if you're a physician.
I don't think it's a disservice. I think everybody should do what they're comfortable with. I was just on the podcast and I said, like, it's about personal happiness and personal satisfaction. If you want to be convinced that you could do it in order to get to your endpoint goal, then guaranteed you ask me and I will give you a reason. And you'd be like, I didn't think about it that way. I get that all the time, again, because I'm an idea person, and people can't kind of through any fault of their own, but they can't step outside the box of where they are to sort of think about new ways to grow. So again, it's about, are you happy in your current state as a physician? If you are happy with how your practice is running and you're full and your life is full in every way, then there's no reason to add social media. But if for any reason you've got a goal that you want to achieve, right? Then you've got to first and foremost define your why. Like, why are you going to dabble online? And then let me help you figure out how you can attain that goal. So there are many ways that physicians can do it. And I understand the fear because it's scary to put yourself out there. But there's so many different ways to put yourself out there. Like, everybody thinks of social media like presence in different ways. I guarantee if I ask both of you guys, one of you would say one platform, the other would say another. There are so many pieces to this puzzle. There's so many ways to let our strengths shine. So that's where a coach or a consultant like me or a masterclass can help you kind of whittle that down and say, well, I'm really good at like constructing sentences, right? But they're in short bits. Great, Twitter. I'm really good at telling a story and developing it. Okay, blog. I'm really good at talking on a podcast, but I don't want people to see. I want to be wearing my pajamas podcast, right? I want to do video because I want to be a speaker. And so I want to be a thought leader in this or that space. Great, YouTube, or use TikTok to make, there's not one size fits all. And the formula is so vast in its makeup. Like, there's not a one size fits all. Now, the beauty of this is that we are not a nobody starting out to become a somebody. We are already a somebody wanting to like propel ourselves to like heights. It's not as hard. Like, we are not Gary V's. Do you guys know Gary V? He's like the entrepreneur on social media that went from nothing to something, right? Because I believe, and correct me, I believe he like prides himself on not going to college, like not having like the standard education that we went through at least, right? And making a someone out of himself that people literally tune into and listen. But that's the point of social media. You're self-made these days. Well, guess what? That's amazing. I respect entrepreneurs like Gary Vee. But what about those entrepreneurs of us that actually have our degrees and have spent time actually studying things that should make a difference? We, in my head, start out here. And so I'm here to like give us a bump and kind of say, well, we can do the same exact things, and because imagine how much impact we can have in this world if we recognize that leverage that we have, that almost that like step up because we've got our degrees. And for some doctors, it hurts us because we have been robots. And so we haven't been able to hone in on social media skills that have propelled Gary Vee to where he is. And that's where I come in and my SoMeDocs and the master classes. And again, I'm so busy at this point that other amazing physician instructors help me to do that.
Yeah. And I think I phrased my question. In fact, I know I phrased my question wrong because it was sort of loaded, because one of the things as a physician standpoint and things that you were touching on is the authority and credibility that we have simply because of our training. And it's not like we know everything or we're the be all end all.
We don't.
But we have a foundation that a lot of the people in the social media space don't have. And you can recognize crap from fact much easier than the lay public is. And unfortunately, that's important in social media. But I guess what I was trying to infer was, in a lot of ways, doctors feel so disempowered and at the whims of, say, administration. But even if you're in a traditional practice, if you're developing a platform and a following, that platform provides you a degree of power that has not been seen in practice to date so far. And what I mean by that is if the administration decides to do something, but you've been developing your platform on whatever social media platform that you enjoy doing, if that's something that you enjoy, you now have a pedestal and a chance to make a difference no matter what your practice environment is. And I think that's what I was kind of discussing. And I see you nodding, so I'm wondering what your thoughts.
Well, I'm nodding because I literally, I made a video on this and never didn't release it yet. And it says exactly that. B, I did a speaking engagement last night where I literally said this because someone asked a question that was the answer for me. And so C, I promised everyone that I would release that video because people needed to hear it. And so you are literally the impetus for me to do that. Yes, we are in essence creating, increasing our worth in real life by creating personas online that are followed and are getting traction. Meaning the more powerfully you build a brand online, the more your power increases in real life. And that is the essence of SoMeDocs and why I am trying to reach my endpoint goal, which I told you in the beginning was to empower the physician. And why empowering the physician comes from arming them online and arming them with powerful and effective voices.
You know, it almost gives, when listening to you all talk, is like, it's almost like you're creating your own on-ramp, and it just makes the onboarding, if you say we're trying to come out of a traditional job that you unexpectedly came out of, and it just, we all know that, you know, you want that, like you said, some traction. You want to start creating that presence instead of coming out of nowhere and then suddenly trying to start it all.
Well, listen, because also like social media presence that's effective can lead to your being recruited by spaces that would not otherwise do that. And that's the whole point, is that you can become like a thought leader in your space. And then before you know it, you're being courted to not just conferences or to media quotes, right? But you're also then sort of looked up to by patients, and they will follow you, and that translates into a win for the hospital. But what I want to say here that's really important is it was very important for me to realize that in order to make the most impact in teaching physician empowerment, in order to do that, I actually needed to separate myself and cut ties with any organization for two reasons. First, because I didn't want the organization to hold me back. They didn't necessarily understand, and I don't know that they really want me to do this, right? So that's A. But B, because it was also important for me to prove to myself that I can shoot to the top and make a difference without having anyone give me credibility. Meaning, I didn't need any organization's name to make an impact in this world. And that in itself is the power of social media. Meaning, I didn't need to be part of Mayo Clinic or Harvard. I mean, it's nice that I, help out there on social media yearly for the past 3 years, but part of that is because they've recognized that I'm talented in something, right? But they're not part of my my mission, or I haven't used that name to propel myself. I've done it from a zero. I've done it from the ground up. And I think that really is what builds really powerful roots in a company and in a movement. When I can do it myself, like no matter what people were trying to do, you are strong and you build a following because you actually have quality things that you stand for, and people slowly realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's even more important if anyone's thinking or listening to this, that they even have a 5% interest in doing something online, that sometimes if you're not quite ready to make the break like you did, sometimes I think dabbling when your life doesn't depend on it as far as paying the bills.
Yes.
It starts allowing the very thing that physicians, despite the fact we're highly skilled and trained, there's so many that like stall out because they're fearful and concerned and don't have the confidence and feel like their bandwidth isn't, you know, big enough to do that.
No, I would not. I would not recommend quitting your day job. Quite the contrary. First of all, understand that social media could be an adjunct, like it could be a complementary boost to your practice. So don't think you have to quit. But even if you're thinking you're burnt out and you want to find something, absolutely dabble. Like, do not quit your day job. First of all, understand that I quit because I had already had significant traction. That's not why I quit, but again, it added. Secondly, my life circumstances was that I had a husband who was working and who could support me. But again, I didn't quit to eat bonbons and to watch Maury Povich, right? I quit because I am building something significant to hopefully change healthcare. And you know what? If I don't, I'm still a happier person. Yeah. So at the end of the day, that's what life's about. Like, even if I put myself into medicine to heal people, I do still think I make a difference in people's lives through SoMeDocs and through my personal brand. And I'm a happier person. So already I'm winning.
Yeah. Can we go there? What you think you'd like to do to change medicine through SoMeDocs?
I want to be the person who fuels individual physicians to change medicine, meaning I don't want the glory of being the person. I want to just be like that. I've always wanted to be a behind the scene like driver. I've never wanted to do this. I've never felt comfortable giving podcasts or giving speaking engagements. It's just, it's evolved this way because I needed to be the face of SoMeDocs and to sort of push it forward. Otherwise, like, nobody was going to understand this extremely complicated like concept of building online presence. So I really just want to be the person who can fuel individual physicians to then go and do their job, almost like a cascade. It's me, and then it's people that get it, and then it's those people that get it underneath, and they're collaborating, and these people are collaborating, and I'm giving them tools, and I'm now assembling the masterclass together to individually impact. So, and then we together as physicians say, we got this. We're intelligent individuals that are extremely motivated, and we're going to have a voice that's impactful online, and it's going to mesh in with our jobs, and we're going to impact healthcare.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Kevin, any questions? I got a quick random question.
Yeah.
Because we probably have no idea about it, and I'm not on it, but anything, what's your, soundbite for TikTok and its benefits and the right target audience?
I mean, it's a totally different, it's funny because we're going to cover TikTok in the masterclass because I thought it was a good little addition. Sounds like you might want to come in. No, TikTok's great. TikTok is just a really cool new way to create content. It basically is just a tool for creativity, right? For expressing ourselves. And again, people look at these things as silly. People look at them as stupid. But you know what? Here lies in our hand a technology that with 2 thumbs, we can create a 15-second, a 59-second video that sends a powerful message, even if it means we make people laugh, even if it means we do it through tears. Again, that's where strategy is concerned. So don't mock the use of these things. Think about it as smart people are using it, and they're using it smartly. And maybe we should all consider, how can we use it in smart ways to get to our endpoint goal? And that's strategy for you. So absolutely, TikTok is just yet another tool by which we could reach a target audience. First of all, that's not present anywhere else. And that's something that the instructor for TikTok said in her interview with me when I kind of got on the phone with her to see if she would fit. But it also just gives the ability to like play around and appeal to a different demographic. So for example, if a younger demographic is present on TikTok, right? Maybe pediatricians can leverage that by teaching children like, don't do drugs, right? Like by singing catchy jingle. And again, it's just an idea. There's so many cool ways to connect with an audience. But yeah, TikTok is just a tool.
Right.
to an endpoint goal.
I think there was just to kind of clarify and pull out a couple details there. There's so many different social media platforms now that you can't say you don't like social media unless you've actually gone through all of them. Because if you, again, like you were saying, if you're an audio person, there's an audio platform for social media. If you like short form video, you got TikTok. So there's a lot of opportunity to let your strengths shine. On the other thing that you just touched on, which I also think is really important, is who's your ideal audience. So like you said, if you're a pediatrician and your clients and patients are on TikTok, then it makes sense to actually reach out to them there if you actually want to communicate them in a way that we can say is speaking their language, and they may be more open, receptive to the message that you're trying to bring. So I think those are some interesting perspectives on social media that are important for physicians. Is there's lots of different platforms to use, and there's lots of different audiences on those. So which one fits for you? Which one fits your message?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, again, it might be called social media, but if you, again, step out of that box and re-angle and use a different perspective to look at it, right? It is essentially a marketing tool to help us to get a message across, really. So it's marketing at our fingertips. Why wouldn't we use it for personal brands and for things that actually positively impact? And we should.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Many times we need repetition to really impact people's overall health, wellness, lifestyle. And that gives you the opportunity to have those reminders, because once a year or a couple times a year in a visit doesn't always do it all for people, especially with shortened visits the way they are now.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, if you don't have any more questions, I think I would love at the very end here to just give people the best place to start learning about you and what you have to offer, especially all these classes that are coming up. What would you suggest to find you?
I think the best place to find us is the website, SoMeDocs.com. Again, we are present everywhere. SoMeDocs, I'm Dr. Corriel. You could reach out to me and ask, but at the end of the day, I am constantly updating the website at SoMeDocs.com with all available resources. I'm using it as a menu for all physician created things and projects and amazing stuff that people are creating online, and helping to facilitate connections that are actually going to impact healthcare positively. So,
yeah. Well, thank you so much for just enlightening us. I know that so many people that are going to listen to this or watch this, I would say the majority of them are not comfortable in the very thing that you are now focused on. And I'm thrilled to have someone like you, especially who took that leap, and I think also a leap of faith in yourself and what you have to offer, and how this can ultimately help the mission of physicians to change people's lives and help them on a grand scale and a personal level. And so I'm grateful that you have that out there. And go ahead.
I'm so wholeheartedly appreciating you saying that, because I have to tell you, when I did it or I talked about doing it, you can imagine the response. So that in itself is a feat for me that I have achieved, to have physicians say that to me, and regularly nowadays. It feels good.
Yeah.
It validates what I'm doing.
I think all of us need that. I mean, in what Kevin and myself, the things that we've been going through and trying to really give back to society in a way that feels in alignment with who we are and the values that we have, and trying to make it something that's sustainable and that we can, create a living from too. I mean, there's so many dynamics that have to be pieced together that really fit and work for you as an individual. So I'm really hopeful for other people to learn what you have to teach them. And thank you again for coming on the Change Physician podcast. Sure. And feel free, listeners, to go check out her website and all the different social media or tools that are out there for you. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.